still listening. I can multitask. I could watch a movie and text. I could drive and tweet.
You can multitask? How wonderful. Oh, you tweet. You Twitter and tweet? You email and text? Your life is abuzz with electrical communication. I'm sorry, I know older people are always saying the past was better, but really, instead of a text with all those lowercase letters and no punctuation, what about a nicely crafted letter sent through the post office or a thank you note?
Yeah, it was real elegant back then. I get it. You had to wait 5 days for a letter, but it was really nice. Time marches on, dude.
We used to lick postage stamps back then. Obviously, you've never heard of that? They didn't just peel off ready-made with sticky stuff on the back. The sticky stuff had to be triggered by your wet tongue. It took time. If you were sending out many letters, you could be licking postage stamps for 10 minutes or so. And we used typewriters back then, and whiteout for corrections, and carbon paper for copies. And we had telephones. We had to dial the number by putting our index finger into a round hole representing 2 to 0, and if the number was 9099999, it could take hours just to dial the number. We had to have patience back then, and we used to lick postage stamps. It was unpleasant, but it had to be done, and we didn't multitask. Doing one thing at a time seemed appropriate, but I guess you can sort of listen to a play and sort of send a message and sort of play a video game all at once. It must be wonderful. I know I sound like a crank, but I don't like change. My play's all about scary change in the weather, but there's other changes too that have happened. There's 785 television channels. You can watch the news report that matches what you already think. In the 50s, there were only 3 or 4 channels. It was all in black and white, and there were no child stars who grew up to be drug addicts like Lindsay Lohan. But, you know, Haley Mills was in the original Parent Trap. She grew up to be a sensible, nice woman. And there was no South Park. We saw Howdy Doody starring a puppet. And then there was Kukla, Fran and Ollie starring 2 more puppets. And a sweet lady named Fran. We watched puppets back then. And then there was the Perry Como show. He was soothing, and the Dinah Shore show. She was charming, and the Bishop Sheen show was on Sunday evening. A Catholic bishop had his own TV show, and he gave sermons on TV. We weren't Catholic, but we watched him anyway. He said interesting things on television. And Ed Sullivan was on before Bishop Sheen, and he had opera singers on, and performers from current Broadway shows. Richard Burton and Julie Andrews would sing songs from Camelot. It was wonderful. And helped theater be part of the national consciousness, which it isn't anymore. And he had Senior Wenceslaw, who had a Spanish accent, and he was a ventriloquist, and he would paint a mouth underneath it, and he would make it speak. Hello, 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 hello. His act lasted about 7 hours. As a child, I used to think to myself, this must be what eternity feels like. And yet, that's a good concept for a child to have.
I thought you were talking about things you liked in the past.
You're right, I'm inconsistent. I don't know what I'm saying. Be quiet. Be quiet. We made postage stamps and we sent letters. I preferred Bishop Sheen to Senior Wences. Bishop Sheen was a good speaker, and he used his real mouth rather than one painted onto his fist, and this made me take him more seriously. And I remember him talking about the seed falling on the good soil, the seed falling on the bad soil, the seed falling on rock. In other words, you build your life on a strong foundation. Of course, I didn't do that, but I meant to. Bishop Sheen said I should. I guess I got lost. But it was interesting hearing him talk that way. It was articulate. I don't think much is articulate in the world anymore. And I'm saying this all in retrospect. I didn't think it when I was 10. I was just trying to get through life one day at a time when I was 10, and I didn't have a life ahead of me where I was going to be almost cast in Entourage 2. I guess you've had a good life. I've had a foolish one. Tell me, are there any older characters on Entourage 2? Do they need someone in his late 50s who's had a useless life and is looking back, feeling bitter? Might I audition for that part?
You don't want to go and lie down somewhere for a while?
I have the remainder of my life to nap. I'm not done yet. We licked postage stamps. And we didn't have answering machines. You had to call people back. And we ate spam, just like the soldiers in World War II did. You ever heard of World War II? And we played Scrabble and Monopoly. We didn't play video games in some virtual reality where we would kill policemen and prostitutes like that was some kind of entertainment. The popular entertainment wasn't so insane back then. It was sometimes corny, but sincere. We all saw the movie Davy Crockett, and we wore coonskin caps. That may not sound sane, wearing those caps, but it was very innocent, and we all did it. There was a solidarity about it, unlike being alone in your room killing prostitutes in a video game. And we followed the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, starring the real-life Ozzie and Harriet Nelson, but adventures was a strange word for the show because it was extremely uneventful. They did things like they made popcorn in the kitchen or looked for missing socks. In retrospect, they seemed medicated. It was a
stupid show, but it was calming. You didn't feel like it was stirring people up and creating serial killers. I'm sorry, I'm getting off the point. My point is the 50s were idiotic, but I miss parts of them. When I was 13, I saw Goldfinger starring Sean Connery as James Bond, and I didn't get the meaning of the character name of Pussy Galore. Went right over my head. Nowadays, 3-year-olds get the joke. They can barely walk, but they know what Pussy Galore means. The weather is changing. The culture is very weird. I'm not a conservative, but I do miss things from the past. I Love Lucy was pretty wonderful, and the whole country watched it, and we saw David Crockett and the Mickey Mouse Show. Boys just past puberty would fixate on Annette Funicello. We didn't identify with rock stars. We identified with Mouseketeers. Annette and Darlene Gillespie and Cubby O'Brien. And my favorite was Tommy Kirk, who was one of the Hardy Boys on the Mickey Mouse shows. And later he starred in Disney's Old Yeller about a boy and his dog. And his father was off fighting in the Civil War, but Tommy was the one who took the responsibility for being the grown-up, not his mother or his younger brother. And initially, he didn't want that dog, but then later he bonded with it, and then at the end of the film, Old Yeller gets rabies and foams at the mouth, where Tommy Kirk has to shoot his dog, crying his eyes out as he does so. It was a traumatic moment in our national past. I shared one, and I wondered, what happened to Tommy Kirk? And I did a Google search, and I learned that sometime after he was in Son of Flubber, Walt Disney found out that Tommy Kirk was gay, and he fired him. Dropped his contract. Meanwhile, Tab Hunter was gay too, but his studio just saw to it that he went on pretend dates with starlets. They didn't fire Tab Hunter. No, they starred him in movies opposite Sophia Loren, for God's sake. But Tommy Kirk, on the other hand, was mistreated, and I take it personally, as I expect he does too. He stopped making movies. He took drugs for a period, and then later he got better, and he became a minister, and now he runs a rug cleaning business. I guess he's all right. But he's had to go through the same changes I have. No more licking of postage stamps, no more typewriters or letters, no more shared national TV shows like Ozzie and Harriet, which even though it was boring, still, it was a shared memory between us. There are no shared memories anymore. Now it's Twitter and email and Facebook and cable and satellite, and the movies and TV shows are all worthless, and we don't even watch the same worthless things together. It's all separate, and our lives are disconnected. And you come in here and say you almost had a part on Entourage too, as if that's an achievement of some kind, and I don't know what you're talking about. I'm worried about the future. I miss the past. I don't want to talk anymore. I'm gonna go sit in the other room. I don't know why I exploded.